Hi there, it's Brian Young from Home Painters Toronto, and it's exterior season now, and I just wanted to talk about some of the most commonly asked questions from my clients. To get into it in a nutshell, a lot of our clients, they have vinyl siding or vinyl windows, and their number one question is, can it be painted or how to paint it? And I'll answer those questions in this video. So by the end of it, you'll know basically how it's done. I'll even throw in some color ideas, and how to do it so it doesn't warp and damage, and as well as the process itself. So if you decide to do it yourself, I'll also teach you how to do that. So the first question is, can it be done? Can you paint vinyl siding or can you paint vinyl windows? The answer is absolutely yes. And how you do so, there's a couple ways, but the most common is you just want to make sure the surface is clean. And how you want to do is wipe it down. You can use a rag, you can use a sponge. If it's like has a film on it or like algae or any type of grease or something on it, you can use also simple green soap, water, warm water, and just wipe it down. And then once it's wiped down, assuming it's clean, couple options. You can actually go right on top with paint, with a proper vinyl siding paint or vinyl paint in general. And the other option is you can always prime it. There's no one way that's perfect, or I've heard from 10 different painters, 10 different ways of doing it. But my 35 years experience is to wipe it down. And if it's not too shiny, you can usually go paint right on top of it. Sherwin-Williams has a really good vinyl safe paint, goes right on top of vinyl. And so it won't cause the number one concern is warping. So it'll actually have the pixels in it, so it won't be so black, so it doesn't attract so much heat and retain the heat, which causes the vinyl to warp. Specifically on windows, you don't have too much worry about warping, more so on siding. Siding is very susceptible to that, so you want to make sure that you use a vinyl safe paint specifically for vinyl, and that should prevent it from warping and basically get the same result, which is the color you want. Usually it's almost always the reason why you paint is because you want to change the color. And at the same time, it's not going to warp and it's going to look beautiful and of course match the rest of the house. So that's definitely the best way to do it. Make sure you use a vinyl safe paint, wipe down the window. For example, if you got those new windows that tend to be really shiny and have that really kind of thick kind of vinyl feel to it, you might want to use a primer, in which case, again, Extreme Bomb Primer is a great one with Sherwin-Williams, or even sticks with Benjamin Moore. You want to use a good latex primer, and then of course a vinyl safe paint once you've done that. And usually you want to let the paint primer sit for at least half a day. Ideally 1 day would be perfect, 24 hours before you start painting right away on top of the vinyl once you've primed it. So there's two ways of doing it. Like I said before, you can go paint. First of all, make sure it's clean, paint right on top of vinyl, as long as you're using a vinyl safe paint. And then of course you can go a primer. If you're really worried about, like, you feel the surface and it's really shiny and has that really thick vinyl feel, then you might want to prime it, just to be super careful. The other thing is you want to make sure that when you're painting, for example, windows, you want to make sure they're open. If not, you're going to have them basically sealed shut. So you want to make sure they're open once they're painted. And if it does rip away sometimes if you don't open the window fast enough, it'll rip away the paint. You want to touch up that area. It's not the end of the world. You just hit it with a little bit of sandpaper, then of course touch it up in those areas that peeled. And of course, let it sit for at least half a day open, so it allows it to cure a little, and of course the air to dry it out. Another question is how often should it be done? Well, it really should only be done when you want to change the color. Most vinyl siding or even windows will last you like 30, 40, 50 years, as long as you don't, sometimes you have to caulk it a little bit here and there, but it'll last you a lifetime basically. And the paint, how long should the paint last? I would say more than 10 years plus, as long as it's prepared properly, it's clean surface. If it's one of those shiny surfaces, you might want to prime it, like I said, using a good primer. But for the most part, as long as it's prepared well, put a good vinyl siding paint, should last 10 plus years. Another question they ask is, how much does it cost to paint a vinyl window? It really depends on the size, if it's a double, triple, quadruple bay window, how thick, in terms of preparation, if it requires a primer or not. But usually if you can be thinking anywhere from $250 to $300 would be on the high end. So it really depends on how much prep, how many windows there are in that section of windows in terms of the cost. Vinyl siding is a whole nother story, but the average, to give you an idea, a typical siding house in Toronto starts, I would say, somewhere in the $2,500 to $5,000 range would be the minimum. And then the high end might be around $10,000 to $12,000 like if it's a huge 2,500, 3,000 square foot house and it has tons of siding around it, you're looking at closer to as much as $10,000 actually. The other questions they ask is which colors. It really depends. But nowadays, 2023, people are using nice neutral, light, medium to light grays. They've even gone charcoal as far as charcoal. There is certain siding paints that you can go black, but you want to make sure it's a vinyl safe product and check with the manufacturer to make sure it can be painted in black. But if you do go black, just make sure it's a vinyl safe black and it's specific paint made for that kind of substrate in terms of making sure that it's conducive for vinyl siding. If not, you could be having some big problems. Warping, black is anything really dark. You want to make sure that it's vinyl safe paint. Or else it's going to eventually warp and then you're going to have to replace it, which is a whole nother deal altogether. So hopefully that was helpful and you learned something about vinyl siding or vinyl window painting. Again, it can definitely be done by yourself or hiring a professional. If you do want to hire someone, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to call us at 416-494-9095 or email us at sales, S-A-L-E-S, at homepainterstoronto.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Have a great day and hopefully you learned something.